Hello everybody, I'm Corin from Greenwood Bonsai Studio here in Nottingham. I wanted to talk to you today about Chinese Elm Bonsai. I've got a little example here. A lot of people, when they get interested in bonsai, they perhaps have like a little indoor bonsai or something they can grow indoors for certain periods of the year. One of the most popular types in the UK is a Chinese elm like this, imported from China, grown in quantity in China, imported into the UK, as well as many other countries. This little one has just been brought into the studio today, just wants a bit of a trim and a tidy up. I thought I'd show you how to do that. Also, I've got a larger one here that's recently bought in by a customer, and he purchased it from us 12 years ago. During that time, it came back a few years ago and we repotted it into this pot for him. But now it needs a thorough pruning and it wants to be taken back quite hard, so we're also going to reshape and prune this one for you and show you how to go on. And this one here on the left of your screen is a Chinese elm that belongs to myself. And here's a photograph of it that was taken 3 years ago when I first bought it. You can see that when I first bought it, the top of it was a little bit weak visually. It was just a little shoot. And over the last 3 years, I've been concentrating a lot on building up the twigginess and the ramification of this upper section of the tree. I've still got a little bit of a way to go, but when you look back at what it was like 3 years ago, I have done quite a lot of work on it. And this is in a beautiful handmade Japanese pot, lovely pot for this tree, and it's a very, very heavy trunk Chinese elm. So it's one from my own collection of trees. And this has just been pruned today, just to get it to the shape, to put it on exhibit and show you now. So we're going to lift this one out of the way. We'll do a little bit of trimming on this small one, and then we'll do this as a starter, and then we'll get to the main event and we'll do this larger one. I'll show you how to cope with trimming, styling and pruning Chinese elm bonsai. So these Chinese elms are a very versatile plant, and we have customers that grow these trees in the UK. They grow them outside all year. If you grow them outside all year, they will go into a bit of dormancy during the winter period. They might drop all the leaves depending on how cold it gets. And if you've got a sheltered garden or it's a mild winter in the UK, they will continue to live outside and survive the winter. The trouble is, if you've got a Chinese elm and it's a cold winter in the UK, or you buy it when it's in fresh, active green growth, you can't just straight away plunge it outside. It needs to be acclimatised to living outside year round. I also have customers that possibly want to keep them inside all year, or they perhaps live in a flat and they haven't got any outside space. And I have got customers that have grown Chinese elms like this inside for over 20 years without any issues whatsoever. So the versatility of the Chinese elm is one of the big sellers. It's one of the reasons people like to buy it. It's also a very tree-like plant, beautiful little leaf, very twiggy, compact, easy to work with and easy to grow. This one's had the trunk shaped in China, and it isn't uncommon with this one. This is just as it's been imported. There's a couple of little bits of wire here, look, on the trunk, where these have been used to pull these branches down, and it's just a metal wire. It'll rust and rot away, but it's better to remove these if you can. So there's a couple of bits on there that want removing, and then there's a couple of little sprouts down here on the trunk that want taking off, a few just here. And then as far as trimming this tree goes, any branches, twigs that are hanging down too much, I can take off. Any growth growing up too much, we can prune back. And let's just give it a little bit of a tidy up. So where this branch is coming down here, you can see this section here is going down too much, we can remove it. This is going up a little bit too much, and then some of these are a little bit long, and we can just shorten some of these back just to get the shape into it, just like I have done with that larger one that I've just I showed you earlier. This is the process I've been doing on that over a few years, just to build up the ramification and get it twiggy. Now this particular tree, so the best view of this tree is probably in here with the front towards you. It's also not bad from this side actually, but either way, this is the apex, the top of the tree here, and this sprout here is going up a little bit too much. So I'm going to shorten that off to here. See what it looks like with that gone. That looks better. I'll shorten this back in here. Fine, clean, sharp pair of scissors so we can do some nice cuts on it. It's quite twiggy, so you often have to sort of get in there and trim bits out to make it look a bit more sensible. A few little bits that are growing up and down and crossing over, we can just get in there with the scissors and remove those. And on this particular tree, I think actually this is the better front for the tree, towards you there. But the way it's potted like that, this branch here is coming too far forward. Be nice if this came around a bit more. So let me just get a piece of wire and I'm going to wire that round for you. Okay, so a bit of 2.5mm wire. We're just going to wire this branch. We'll start the wire on the tree here, bring it around that branch, and I'll take the other piece up and around and just anchor it onto that branch further up the tree. Like so. Just tuck it round like that. And then follow this piece of wire, bring it all the way down to the end of the branch, and any excess length we can just trim back. And now we can get this branch here and we can manipulate it carefully and bend it in down like so. So the front's towards you. So a little bit of a tidy up here on the surface, and that's a quick little trim on a sort of commercial grade Chinese elm. I know many of you have probably got trees like this in your own collection, even if you just started off bonsai. And there's a little bit of snobbery in bonsai when it comes to Chinese elms. You know, a lot of people sort of dismiss them because they're sort of they're a fairly common tree. But you can see that one that I've just shown you earlier of mine. You know, they're a very nice tree to grow. Especially in the larger sizes, they get lovely flaky bark, and they can look quite dramatic and nice as they get older. So we'll pop this to one side. We'll get a different turntable in place, and we'll look at trimming this larger example that the customer has brought into us today at the studio. Okay, so this tree here on the right has been brought in by a customer to the studio today. Now we're trying to plan what videos we want to do and what videos you ask us to do, but we get trees like this that just appear. I was away yesterday working on some trees for a client, and while I was away this got brought up for a bit of a prune. It's been quite overgrown. I think the owner does a good job of watering it and feeding it, and it's quite healthy, putting on quite a lot of growth, but it's just been getting a little bit too bushy in recent years. This one here, it probably started off a tree this sort of size when it was bought from us 10 or 12 years ago, and it's just grown and developed, and now you've got something this sort of size, and it's worth sort of pruning back and tackling for the customer. Now this will be a fairly drastic prune back. This is quite long, this growth, and you can see we've got lots of growth at the tips, but if you look back in the branches, there are buds further back in the branches here. So there's not a problem in cutting back to old wood on this tree and getting it to then develop and bud out. So what I've said, I spoke to the customer about this, and he's quite willing for us to trim it hard back, and then we're going to put it in the greenhouse for about 6 weeks or so to get it to bud back and respond well, and then we can bring it back out and we can show you how it's responding and what it's doing. Now, initially when we look at this tree, this growth here has got to come back probably 8 to 10 centimetres all over, Once we trim this back, we've then got to look at the structure of the tree, look. We've got a lot of crossing branches and it's all a bit of a muddle. So I'm going to fairly drastically take it back so that I can see the structure, and then we can trim out branches and structure that we don't need, so we're left with better branches going forward. Yeah? So let's have a look. So we're going to start off, we'll start off at the top. So let's just get in and pick a branch like this one here, for instance. Yeah, can you see? I'll do it this way round so you can see what I'm doing. So these branches that are quite long, these twigs, I'm going to trim it back initially like that. A little bit of growth on it, doesn't matter if we leave growth on it or not. There's all sorts of latent buds in here that it will start to grow from. So if I can get it back to that sort of stage, and then the next one along, same thing with that, trim this hard back, and I'm going to work my way up the tree. Just take it back to that sort of size. And I'm using a fairly large pair of scissors to do this, because this is a bit more of a shearing action to start with, and then we can do a bit more refinement once we've got it cut back. So up here at the top, you can see that this branch is, this little twig here is cutting through there, so let's remove that. As you can trim it, as you trim it back like this, you can see a lot of the structure, and a lot of the structure on this is new growth that's come up in the last few years. It's probably a few years since we ever trimmed it like this. It's surprising how quick these can grow. So it's normally you would trim it in more frequently, so it has been let to grow a little bit too much. So it's definitely time to tackle this. You can see here where I've cut it back. You see these little buds here? Just in a few weeks in the greenhouse, they'll be popping new leaf out. So that's an encouraging sign. So there's no problem with the health of the tree. That's very good. It seems to have quite a lot of health and vigour. It's just a little bit misplaced at the moment, because it's putting out growth on foliage and branches that we don't really need. And round here at the back, I say with this particular tree, we're going to do a follow-up on it in a few weeks' time. So I know some of you, if you haven't done this sort of work before, you know, you might be shocked at how much is coming off. And that's why we're going to do a follow-up video of it, to show you the reason we're trimming the tree like this, and also show you the benefit of why we're trimming the tree like this for the future. So this branch here on the front of the tree, if you look, it's very strange the way it's coming out. It's coming out here on the inside of a curve. It's a very unnatural form. If I turn it round, it's actually originating here at the back of the tree, and it's nipping through there, coming out the front. And it's obscuring the view into the tree from this angle. So we're going to remove that with a concave pruner. We'll get in there and cut it back like so. Also at the start of that here, look, can you see a scale insect? Yeah, brown scale insect with fluff behind it, look. There's one here. There's a couple more here. They're quite good at disguising themselves. See one there, look. And one here. you can normally get a bit of insecticide or something and squirt them with a bit of insecticide, or you can physically remove them with like an old toothbrush or something. So obviously we'll remove them, but we'll also give the tree a spray so that they don't come back. So this bit we've cut back like that, we'll take it back more so we've not got that stub. It's a bit awkward to get to. Snip it back like this. Nearly got the cameraman there. With a concave pruner, trim it back like that, and then we'll put a little bit of that balsam wound sealant on it, just to hide that. Right, now, because we've now cut the tree back, and the front of the tree's in here, and we've took it back, can you see we've got some strange branches in it? We've got the ones that are most strange are this one here, that's very straight, and then this one here. This one's coming, this is the top of the tree, this one not. This one thinks it's the top of the tree. And it's not doing a bad job of filling in here, but this structure's really not very good. So we're going to be a bit harder with it now. We're going to start thinning out some of these branches. Now this one here, this offender, is actually coming from down just there. So take that back, pull that out. This straight one is coming from here and cutting across the tree. And the top of the tree here, coming up here, and then this shoot here I don't need. We're going to cut this back like this. This one's growing up too much. That's growing up too much. This one's a bit thick. It's coming off this shoot in here, like that. This one's growing up too much. This one's awfully heavy. So we'll try and take out some of these thick, lumpy sections so we've got more delicate foliage that we can use. This one here is quite thick as well. Where's that coming from? Just here. Let's take that whole knuckle out like so. This one here is coming off that stub and cutting across the back of the tree. And there's also a stub on the top there that wants removing. This is growing up too much. This is too long. This is growing up too much. This little section here. This bit here can come off. This is going back into the tree. That's a little dead stub here. So let's just take that back. This piece here is going back into the tree. So is this piece. And then there's some sort of collision between these two branches. Probably this one would be the one to remove. And this little stub. We'll leave some of these twisty ones here for now. Just shorten it back a little bit more, like so. Back down to this branch. This is growing up too much. And here. And this section. This stub here is just dead. You can tell when you cut through it, look, that bit there. Shorten that back. And this little bit in here has died off. Probably just got shaded out by all that other growth. And by trimming it like this, we'll get more light into the tree. It will grow a lot better, stronger. Like so. This lower branch, this wants to come off. This stub here and this branch here, they want to be removed. So this piece here. And then this section on top. This bit's going down too much. funny bit of growth here, a bit too thick and lumpy. Same with this section, just here. And then with this length here, this wants to come back a little bit more, so we're going to chase that back into here, up on this left hand side of the tree. We haven't trimmed that yet, so we've got this section here going down too much to come off, like this. This piece here is dead, so's this stub. Can you see here the colour of this bark, and this is a darker, more red colour. This bit here has died off. This section here is going up too much, too thick and lumpy. And then see if we can just sort these bits out. This bit off this branch growing up too much. Bit of a jumble in here. Let's give this a bit of a trim to make a bit of space. And this back branch here, a bit the same there. There's a branch in here. This is growing up. Let's get rid of that. You really can't believe the buds on here. If you look in here, look, these buds here popping all over. Yeah, and really should be interesting to see how this tree responds. I think it's going to be phenomenal response to this pruning. I think we've just caught it at the right time. You know, it looks like it's raring to go to send some new growth out on these branches. It really is. This branch here, this is a bit too upward growing. I suspect a lot of these branches I'm taking off about 5 or 6 years old. You know, we probably gave it a bit of a trim last time it was potted, and then it probably hasn't been trimmed to this sort of degree since then. And of course, because they're a quick growing tree, you know, the good thing is they can develop quite quick, but the bad side of that is that if they're not trimmed back enough, they grow quite quick and they can sort of get away from you quite quickly as well. Now we still reserve the right to give this a bit of a trim, you know, once it starts to leaf out, but depending on how it responds and how it buds. If we just stand back so we can have a look. We've got a more triangular silhouette to it. We've taken the apex down. We've took out the 2 or 3 growths that were trying to be the apex of the tree. We've took out a lot of growth that was growing up too much and crossing branches. Tried to keep some movement in the branches. You know, these could go back even more to these main branches, but we've kept a bit of this character where we can, but took out the branches that are sort of more offending to the eye. This is a little strange one here actually. It comes out here, comes along that main branch, twists, returns, goes back up on itself. So that's probably, let's take that little one there out. Yeah, and I think that once we've taken that out, we'll call it a day at that for now, and we'll see how it responds. So those cuts that we've made on the tree, we'll put some wound sealant on again on those. Anything over sort of 4 mil in diameter, we'll just pop a bit of wound sealant on just to hide them, disguise them, to promote healing and sealing on those cuts. And this tree, at this time of year now, we're reaching the end of May. We're just starting to get a few sunny days up here. So we're going to put this into a greenhouse, and it's quite warm, humid environment, and we expect to see this tree sending more and more buds out in coming weeks. And I think within sort of 4 to 6 weeks here in the UK, this should be full of new leaf, and maybe 6 to 8 weeks we should be in a position to give the customer a call and tell them they can come and pick up their tree from our nursery here and it should be looking a little bit different, a little bit less unruly and a bit more organised, and it should be good for like the following few years. And once it's back to this sort of stage and organisation, hopefully it will also be easier for the owner to keep it under control, you know, going forward with a little bit of help from us. It probably needs to come up to the nursery on a more frequent basis so that we can help them trim it and take it forward. So there we have Chinese Elm, all pruned and tidied. Pop it in the greenhouse, and we'll bring it out in a few weeks' time and show you how it's got on. So please give us a like and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on any updated videos following on with this tree and many of the others that we've done. Thank you.